What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another video here on the channel. You guys have been loving these investment talks, these Bitcoin talks. So today, a little bit of a different video. We're not going to be talking about crypto and Bitcoin specifically, but instead, I want to talk to you guys about my opinion, my thesis on investing in your 20s and 30s. If you don't know already, I'm 28 years old. And the things that I've learned over the last 3 years have massively changed my opinion. And also because of where I come from with money, I've always had a very savers mindset where I try to save all of the money I can. And I'm really, or at least I was, really afraid to use that money. Whether that be spending on something I want, new car, new TV, whatever, iPhone, I always wait as long as I can until that other thing needs to be replaced. Or if that's just, investing and stuff. It's always been scary because I'm like, I don't want to lose that money I worked so hard for. And that, unfortunately, is the difference in mindset between people who make money and who have their money make them more money and get more wealthy, and people who don't and kind of stay in the same class as their parents and as they've always been, and they don't advance their family. I think it's really important to invest your money so that you can move up the ladder of what class you're in. So if you start in middle class, you want to work your way up to upper middle class and then upper class. It's just natural to make that progress, but it's hard and it's scary. So if you are someone who has a similar kind of a mindset as I did before, I think this video is going to serve you really well. As always, I want to say this is not investment advice. This is my opinion, my thesis on investing, and how I think, and what you take out of it is completely up to you. Now, let's talk about this. Okay, so about 3-4 years ago, I got introduced to Bitcoin, and that put me on a crash course into learning about investments, learning about assets, learning about how much money is out there in one supply, how much inflation changes things. Basically, it got me interested in stuff that I would have never gotten interested in, because when you learn from stocks, it's so slow, it's so boring, hearing about PE ratios, hearing about yield curves, hearing about monetary stimulus, also so boring. I get it. So here's maybe like the simplest thing, right? I think that I think that if I was not willing to be risky, then at the very least what I would do is I would invest my money into very large cap stocks. So buying Apple, Amazon, Facebook, Google. These are things that I bet you feel the same way, right? With taking the money out of the situation. Would you bet that those companies will be around in 10 years? How about 50 years? How about 100 years? I personally don't think that Amazon or Google will go anywhere for 100 years or even longer, especially with the things that they're building out in space, the things that they're making the whole world dependent on. I don't think that they're going away. So, because these stocks are so large, there's so much valuation in them, for them to move up in percentage, it takes a lot of extra value added to those companies. So with those companies, you aren't going to see the same amount of profit and gains as something that's a smaller cap that has more room to grow. So in my opinion, those are safe, and they're a great way to basically open a savings account. If you have money just sitting there in your bank account, it's not making any money. It has no interest, it has no income, unless it's like 0.01%, so nothing. And as we know, inflation happens. We print 2% inflation every year. We print money every single year. Right now it's ramping up. Last year we printed over 28% of all the US dollars that's ever existed just in 2020. So I think that, for me personally, if I was just going to be completely safe, if I wasn't going to use the money that was in my bank account, it's just going to sit there for a year, 5 years, 10 years anyways, all the excess money I would put into huge stocks like that I don't think will ever fail. Now, it's not going to make you a ton of money, but over the next 5-10 years, sure, those stocks will go up 5, 10, 15%, maybe 20%. And that is going to help you to save a lot of the value that's in your dollars rather than just sitting it in your bank. Now, my real opinion is that if you're in your 20s and 30s and you have an income stream, think about it like this. How much excess money do you have in your bank account right now that's just sitting there? Maybe it's 1 year's worth of saving from your regular income stream. Maybe it's 2 or 5 years or 10 years worth of saving, right? Because I'm so young, and because I do have an income stream that continues to bring more money in, my risk is able to be much higher than maybe somebody who's close to retirement, 50 or 60, and they need to be sure that their money doesn't go away over the 4 years of them investing before they get to retirement age. So they have to be safer and play it safer. I think at my age, I've grown more risk comfortable. So this is because crypto has gotten me comfortable with rises and drops. But think about it like this. If you put all the money you have, and say that's 1 year's worth of saving your income, into more risky things like crypto, like Bitcoin, or maybe even stocks that are a little bit more risky like Tesla or other things, if that all goes to zero, which they never go to zero, they might crash 50%, but just, it goes to zero, you lose it all. What's that mean to you? It means you have to work for another year, which you were already going to do to save that money up anyways. It's not like you were saving for anything specifically. Maybe you were saving for a house or something like that, but you're young. You can make it another year before you go to get that house. Or maybe it's 2 years or 5 years of income. But the upside potential is life-changing. So in my opinion, I don't want to continue saving for 20 years to get to a point where I'm like, wow, that's a decent amount of money. 20 years from now, I'm almost 40 and I have a bit of money. Wow, this is great. If I'm able to make 20 years of income over the course of the next 1, 2, 3, or 4 years by risking 1 year of income savings or 2 years of income savings, that's a risk that I'm willing to take because I'm so young, I'm not scared to work, and I'm willing to make it back. That's something that I think everyone needs to think about because I don't think everyone really thinks about investing, especially younger people. We're just focused on having fun. I don't want to get too technical. I don't want too much information. It's boring. But I just, when I think about, my friends and people around me who are just letting that potential slip away, I think it's something that makes me very sad. So to recap, I think everybody in their 20s and 30s should be investing in something. And if you're really scared, then I would invest in large cap stocks. And I think that's pretty comfortable. Even if you have a huge crash, like for example, the pandemic that just happened, and in March, everything slipped. It dropped huge, right? But really not that much. Think about it, right? So if you had all your money in Google or something like that, sure, it crashed a lot. 30%, 40%, I don't really know. I'm not in Google, but I'm sure something like that, right? And by now, not only has all of the stock market recovered, but it's made it even farther than it was before the crash. So even when you have your money in these big stocks, I think it's important to have the mindset of you're thinking the long game, right? You're not thinking about making 1% or 5%. You're not thinking about making a couple $100 or maybe 1,000 or 2 here or there. In your mind, you should say, this is money that I don't need right now. I'm going to hold it in there as long as I possibly can. And when things go down, as long as I don't believe in my head that that company is going to fail entirely and will just not exist anymore, then it will always go back up. This is how it has always been since the beginning of the stock market. And this is because companies grow in valuation because they're doing successful things, but also because we continue to print money, and that money needs to find its way into assets, and it will rise the price of assets as we're seeing currently. Every time we announce stimulus being printed, every time we print more money, we see assets rising in price. I just had a friend who texted me and said that her house has raised in 40% in 1 year in valuation. This is because every asset right now is being bought up so that people, big companies, big institutions, people with a lot of money, big pockets, can preserve their buying power, their value of their dollar by putting it into assets that will appreciate, while the actual cash is being printed more and more every single day. So the actual value of just holding cash goes down. So they try to hedge against that or make money against that. I don't think that's ever going to stop. And so then we get to the next part. If you're like me and you're comfortable with the risk and you're young and you can handle it, then if you choose things that are smaller cap, they have a lot more room to grow. So things, if you're really comfortable, like Bitcoin, where it can see crashes of 50% or 80%. But as long as you continue to hold on, it continues to appreciate over time. Things that are in smaller caps, things that have less money overall in the entire asset, they have an ability to be more volatile with how they go up in moves and how they go down in moves because it takes less money to move them. As they gain market cap size, then it becomes smaller movements up and down because it takes more money to move them up or down. So when people panic sell, it's not going to move quite as far down. So I think that's probably good for this video. I have so much to say about this. But if you're not investing in anything yet, I do think it's important for you to do some research, learn about it. I'm not telling you what to do or how you should do it, but I do think that it's, I hate to say it, but I think it's irresponsible to do absolutely nothing and just save your money in the bank. I think you're doing yourself a disservice by not planting that money as seeds into the ground and watching it grow. Because even if you would have just picked safe bets when the coronavirus pandemic hit, if you would have bought as much things as you could while it dipped, even if you bought Google and things like that, you or Apple or Amazon, you would have made a good portion of money in less than a year. And I think especially now as we enter into 2020, I think printing is only going to increase. I think assets are going to go to valuations where people are saying, oh, it has to crash, it has to correct, it's going to go down eventually. I think people are going to be mind blown at how these companies and assets continue to grow to levels that, if you compare it to the past, just doesn't make sense. But you can't compare the future to the past. A lot of times history rhymes, but not always does it, go exactly the same. The final piece of advice that I have is that it's important not to be emotional. I used to make this mistake when I first started investing in stocks before crypto. I had a couple stocks go down about 5-10%, and I said, oh, I'm pulling this out. This is stupid. This is going to keep going down. It's dumb. When you sell, that's the only time you actually realize loss. That's the only time you actually lose money. Because if it drops in valuation, you don't sell it, and you just keep holding for long enough, it'll come back to where it was and probably go higher. And in that way, you're not losing any money, you're actually making money. It just took 3 years instead of 3 months or 1 year. In addition to that, in my opinion, personally, this is what I do. When things crash or they go down, it's just a discount on the thing you already purchased. If you bought Apple stock and you believe that Apple stock was a good buy, then when it goes down to 30%, you bought it and you thought it was a good buy. So has anything changed? No, you still think Apple's an amazing company that's going to do better than ever over the course of the next 5-10 years. So all that's happening is you're getting a discount on the price that you already had purchased at. So now you can buy even more at 30%. So I think when things crash and dip, you just add more to your position and you just never use money that you need in the moment, right? You don't use your rent money from next month because that's when you become irresponsibly, long, and you have to have that money. So then you get emotional and you're able to be swayed into selling your positions because you have to cover the rent or whatever. But any excess money, I think it is so wise to put into things and continue adding to your positions when they drop. And overall, you're going to see a lot bigger of a return. I think that's everything I got to say. For me personally, my stock picks have made between 300 and 400% over the course of 2020 till now. That's unheard of. But so thankfully and gratefully, had I gotten used to the idea that you buy the dips when they crash, that's when you buy more of it. It's just going to go up as long as it doesn't bankrupt, as long as it doesn't go away entirely. I think that's it for now. I have a lot more to say. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you want to hear more investment videos instead of just crypto videos, I'd love to do those, but I wanted to put this out there for a lot of my friends who asked me for my best advice, just that I have a video to send to them, and hopefully this is helpful for you as well. As you can tell, I have a lot of energy. I just drank coffee, so I'm blasting, so hopefully you're able to keep up with me. If not, hit the speed button, drop it to 0.75. But that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll talk to you very soon.